Okay, we're back, and I'm finally going to get into the actual animation portion of this project. It's a lot of drawing. I mean, the drawing, it takes up a lot of time, and building the scenery takes up a lot of time. While I was gone, what I did do is I shrunk down these these back row zinnias a little bit because I felt like they should be a little smaller. And one more thing I want to just fix real quick here is the animal here, the zoo background. I'm going to come into that layer. This guy, I don't want his head off of the. So I'm going to just get him a little smaller and shrink him down just a hair, just so his head is within the scene. Okay, enough of that. Lock that. Here we go. We're going to do the actual animation. Now again, the first part, this is a trick that I use all the time. We're going to be working on the zebra layer exclusively. Okay, so I'm going to unlock the zebra layer. In the very beginning, okay, Alphabet Adventures, this is just the intro. I should actually put the intro on a separate scene, but I didn't, and I'm on Z now. I'm not going to set it up like that. I've gone through the whole alphabet like this. Okay, so I found the place where the actual scene starts after the intro, and it's right here. So Zebra, he's the only guy that's going to be animated now. He's going to see all the action. We've got to do a little modification to our zebra, though. I forgot about it, so we're going to have to. There's still more work to do before we even get to the animation. Right now, he's just standing there. Let's open our zebra symbol, and I'm going to blow it, shrink it down so I can see. He's just kind of standing there. So if he's going to be zigzagging, we're going to have to make him walk. Another thing that we're going to do in the beginning, this is an old animation trick. Rather than using up a lot of memory, making him actually move, when it says the zany zealous zebra, I'm just going to have his face in there. So I want a version of just his head. So that's that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock all the layers of the zebra. I'm going to take my select tool, and I'm just going to select the very top part of him. So I'm going to just say copy, and then I'm going to go into a new symbol, and I'm going to call it zebra head, ZEBRA _ head. Oops, head. Say OK, and I'm going to select my blank frame, and I'm going to say paste. Okay, and we can get rid of his legs. We don't need to have that in there. So this is going to be the head of him. I'm going to grab the whole thing, and I'm going to kind of center it on my crosshairs on the center. So that's step one. So I've got that symbol to use, zebra head. And then the other thing is, let's go back into zebra. I'm going to, in this case, I don't think we're going to even need him standing still. So I don't have to create a new symbol. I'm just going to modify this one. So he's going to be walking, and so I'm going to need a little space. I'm going to need some timeline space here. So I'm going to go ahead and go out to maybe 40. I'm going to shift, select all of them, hit F5. So again, we've got some action. We've got some room for some things to happen. The only thing that's going to happen is these legs are going to move. So it's not some huge animation thing here. And where are our legs at? There's do they each have their own, or do they? So there's two of them. Alright, well, let's just start with the two that I've seen here already. I'm going to lock everything and unlock those. I'm going to put in a keyframe roughly about halfway through. Again, to save memory, you don't necessarily want it to be... I mean, you could do a tween. Okay, let's do one with a tween and show. So here it is. Let's get this thing. Okay, and if you're using bones, it's so much easier. And then here's where it's the new keyframe, which keyframes always make something happen. So what we want to happen is this leg to move a little. Okay. I could put a whole tween in here and make it, I'm going to go ahead and do it, which you select somewhere in the middle, right click, insert tween, or what do you call it? Create motion tween. And then it automatically would do that, so it'll like move gradually, but that's just going to use up so much memory, and it's really not necessary. So I'm going to right click that again and say remove tween. And really, we just want him to move. And it's going to be fine, believe me. And if it's for the short amount of time that he's on stage, we really don't need that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same with this. So what did I do with this leg? That leg moved backwards. So I'm going to do the same with this. Make this leg move backward a little. And I think at the same time, we'll make this... we have to find the other legs first. So let's relock those. I'm happy with that. Leg front. Here we go. I think I'm going to make these go a little first, a little ahead of the other ones. And if it looks weird, we can change it. I'm going to unlock. So I'll this one, and oops, this pivot thing is not in the right place. And I'm going to make it go forward. Do the same on this. Also, the pivot's not in the right place. I wonder why. Like that. Okay. Now we can just, you can move your across your thing and see how it's going to look. And I think that's going to be perfectly fine for our zebra walking. I'm happy with that. You don't want to spend a ton of time on this. Okay, so here we are. For the first part, I'm just going to show the zany zebra. So I've got all my layers locked. Do I have my zebra layer unlocked? I do. Oh, I'm also going to put a keyframe. This is when it runs to our scene. So I'm going to put a keyframe there. But in the very first part, I'm just going to put, you know, the zany zealous zebra. So he's just going to be on screen, and you're just going to see his head. Oops, undo. I want zebra head. Because, of course, it's way too small, and that looks weird. But there we go. With vector again, I've got my freeze transform tool. I can just make him as big or small as I want, and he's not going to lose any kind of... He's going to be fine. Control plus. Let's put it at 30%. Alright, let's take a look. I think I want to rotate him. Yeah, like that. There's some weird thing happening down here by the bottom of his chin, so we're going to figure that out and see what's... But I don't do it on stage. I go into the... There. I like him. I think he looks good. I'm going to leave him like that. I'm going to go into my zebra head symbol, though, and let's blow this baby up, and let's see what is going on here with that. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on, so we need to fix it. Okay, so basically the way we're going to see if it's okay is we're going to just run a test and play it, and let's see how it looks. I don't think we're going to have to do much animating in the first part, but let's just play it and see how it looks. The zany zealous zebra zips through the zip. Okay. There's already like a skip there, so there's too much information, I think. That might be a problem part. But that came in too fast. So we're going to make the zebra enter the stage right here. And I think that's going to improve it. Let's look again. The zany zealous zebra zips through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo. Okay. Not too bad. Alright, so I'm going to make, now we're going to get to the point where he's zipping through the zinnias. So I'm going to select that keyframe, get my zebra, drag him on stage again. And he's a little too big, even though he's in the front, in the foreground, which would, you know, would make him bigger. I still have to say he's a little bit too big. So we're going to bring him on stage, and we're going to make him go to this point, and this point, and this point, and this point. So there's going to be more than one animation. And we don't want it to be where a lot of other things are changing. So we're going to stagger our keyframes. I think we're going to be fine because this is a straight line, but I am going to show you an example of another way. So here's my keyframe. I'm going to select F6 for another keyframe. I'm going to move him up to here. And I'm going to come in between the two keyframes, right click, create motion tween. There's all sorts of things you can do in here, but for right now we're just going to cover the basic. It automatically makes that arrow for you. So it's going to make him move along that path. Then I'm going to put another F6. Actually, he should be all the way up the path by the end of that motion tween. I'm going to put another F6, as I already did, another keyframe. Oops, undo. Let's, how we can get rid of keyframe is say Shift F6, and then it disappears. So I'm going to hit another F6, put a new keyframe in. I'm going to give him a little bit of a rotate, and I'm going to bring another one to here, and F6 again, and bring him down to this spot, and create motion tween by selecting a middle spot. Create motion tween, automatically does it right for me. Come back, make another keyframe here, F6. Another one here, F6 again. drag him up to the next point, right click, create motion tween, and again, do it. Just keep doing that until the very end. I can tell you right now that this is too. We're going to have to do something about this. Oops, undo. I'm going to rotate him a little and bring him down here. Maybe we shouldn't bring him off stage. Maybe he'll just end up here at the end of it, like that. And create motion tween. Alright, so we want this to last the whole time, and obviously it's not. So we're going to have to drag these way out. So I'm going to grab this, shift, and we're going to move this whole sequence down. And I'm going to do it again. Grab it, move it down. Because this has to last the entire duration of the animation, and it's nowhere close to that. So drag it down. Ooh. Okay, and now I'm going to make it bigger because obviously that's going to be an issue too. They're too small. Okay, do that with the next group. Shift select, grab this whole thing, move it down, keep moving it down, catch up with those other ones. Okay, and make it bigger. So just grab one frame and drag it out. So that's just going to make it last longer. Where before it only lasted for, you know, whatever, now it's lasting much longer. This is showing length. And I'm going to do a whole thing on timelines too, but this is just basically covering some basic stuff. Okay, move this down again. Oops, keep dragging it down. And again. And now I'll deselect, just grab one frame and stretch it out to make it longer. I want to look at these so they're all roughly around the same. We could even use this 110 to 160. So that's about 110 frames. And this is 9, you know, right in that same range. This is a little less, so we're going to make it, drag it out like that. You can look at it visually or you can actually count frames. Okay, like this. And then we're going to grab my first sequence and just lengthen it. And make these meet. They don't all have to be the exact same length at all. So because he's moving in, well, let's take a look at this. I'm going to say save, and we're going to start right here, and I want to see the whole stage area, and press play, and let's have a look. He's not zipping. Z. I don't like it because he's not zipping. He's moving super slow. So that's not zipping. If we're saying zip, he should be zipping through, right? Okay, so I'm going to make him move a little faster and actually do some zipping. Let's see if it looks okay with that pause in between. Let's see how that looks.
Zip through the zigzag zinnias at the zoo.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Z.
Alright, what do I say that last Z at? So he should be done with it. I made it go all the way to the end, but really it should be done here. This is where it should be done. So I'm going to go ahead and back everything up again. He's got a zip. So it was a mistake to make these longer. We're going to back it up and make them shorter again. And he can just stand there at the end. I mean, he doesn't have to be constantly walking necessarily. Alright, so we're going to make these much shorter. Kind of, probably the first thing was probably right, and I should have played it to see how it looked. I think because of all there's so many things on stage, all these zinnias, even though I tried to keep them simplified, we're running into that where it's kind of dragging. There's too many things happening on the stage, so we might have a little problem with that. But and plus the zebra himself has a lot, all those stripes in him. Yeah, I tried to make him pretty simple, but you know, it's got to look good too. It can't look like, you know, complete trash. It's got to look pretty decent. So I'm grabbing these sequences again by shift clicking them, and I'm moving them backward, putting them back to happen in a more timely fashion. And then he says Z here. So I think that's a good ending point. Alright, so we need to make these a little longer, but not much. Not much at all. Alright, I'm going to say save, and I'm going to try it again. Let's see how that looks. Get it up here where I can see, and play.
Zip through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo. Z.
Yeah, those legs moving. Okay, so the last zebra is going to have to be with no legs moving, because he's just standing there moving his legs. It looks crazy. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is move this back. I'm going to show you the onion skins. We're going to use onion skins, which is another cool feature of Flash. Okay, so, and also I don't like his nose being off stage, so let's get him back all the way on stage. I'm going to go back into my zebra symbol. I'm going to select all the frames. Shift, select, right click, copy frames. I'm going to make a new symbol called zebra underscore still. So a zebra standing still. Okay, come back, right click, paste frames. He's in there and there's no movement. Now, how do we switch from the moving zebra to the zebra still? That's where our onion skins come in. Okay, so we're still on our zebra layer. Let's get off of that. Here he is at his final place. And then I'm going to put a F7 for a blank keyframe. I'm going to drag zebra still on the stage in the general vicinity. And he's probably not the right size or anything. Okay, so I'm going to blow up. We're really going to focus right on zebra here. Just we don't need to see the rest of the stage. Just need to see him. And I'm going to put, this is called onion skin. You put that on and you can drag this and you can see wherever you drag it to. I mean, I could drag the whole thing, you know, and it'll show even more. It shows his movement, but I really only want to see this last frame. So I'm going to come back here and get him like that. And now I can take my zebra and move him around and get him lined up with that the other one. So hopefully, ultimately, what we want is that it will be seamless. That you won't. It's not going to jerk, and all of a sudden you're going to be at this standing still point. And it looks like he's rotated a little bit like this. Look at that ear. See how that ear is here, and then this ear has to be more in line with it. I mean, he's in motion when he's moving up there. So if he moves a tiny bit, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But it looked like I've done some skewing and everything, so it might be kind of difficult. All right. Let's just get him up there. I think that might be close enough. The tail is going to move a little, but let's just take off the onion skin. And let's just play it and see if it's going to be too jerky. So let's see.
Z.
Well, I need a little more running room than that. I couldn't tell what happened there. So let's back it up to about here and play it through and see how we like it.
Z.
I think that's okay. I think it looks fairly good for what we want. What I was going to show you while we're on the subject of Tween, now in this case I just moved him from point A to point B and Flash went ahead and did it for me. I went ahead and got the Colors of the World video because there's another cool thing you can do if you don't want a straight line. I mean, there's a ways you could get around it, like you could make it all straight lines and it just gets crazy. There's a thing called a guide layer in Flash, and I did use it in Colors of the World. I have it blanked out because I don't want to see it all the time, but here, because I wanted it to fly down in a certain direction, like in a loop. So I have this guide layer. I'm just using my eye so you can eliminate it or bring it back. It's still there whether you see it or not. And I always just take it out so I can, it drives me crazy when I see it. And it really is. You just take your pencil tool, and I just drew this line. And then you select it, and you say Add Motion Guide. And that's what makes this the guide layer. And then the other thing is you've got to drag your whatever you want to follow along on this line, you drag it under and it kind of puts it under almost like a directory. Notice how this layer 72 is at the same layer, the same, almost like a hierarchy as the guide layer. All these symbols are, but this butterfly is kind of indented. That's because it's forced to adhere to the guide layer. So when you do this, let me unhook my butterfly for a minute. This little circle, I'm going to move it. Let's move it all the way away. It won't let me. I don't know why it's not letting me. Okay. When you come up on it, here, let's get it. Okay. You get it, and you come up on it, and you want to like hook it onto that line. And I might have messed it up. No, I didn't mess it up. Then it's going to follow right along that line. Let's pull this down. This is an instance where, okay, as you just saw, I used more than one because it wasn't, it was too much. So here. So I used these guide layers because I wanted to go in another motion besides a straight path. And then you just blank it out and you don't see it. And you don't, even if you don't blank it out on here, you don't see it in the final movie. But I just blank it out so it's easier to do. So you just draw a line, you drag your symbol to the beginning of the line, and then you drag your symbol to the end of a line, just like a normal tween, but it's going to force it to follow along on that line. So that's another great animation tool that you can use in Flash. But over here in our letter Z, he's just walking along a straight path, so that's not necessary. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and build this out and see if I can live with it. I think that we're going to have a problem with it running a little slow because of these zinnias, and there's so much action on the stage. Even though I simplified them, it's still a lot for Flash to calculate and render. So I'm going to say save. I'm going to say export. Export move. Letter Z, and I'm going to save as a QuickTime movie. And because it's going on YouTube, it has to be in a QuickTime movie. That's something I wish YouTube would do, because if I build this out as a FLA file, as a Flash file, it would run really much smoother. And they convert it into Flash afterwards. And you know, I wish we didn't have to go convert it to QuickTime and then have it convert back to Flash, because the QuickTime makes it kind of jerky. Okay, I've got it 1920 by 1080. That's because I want it to be HD. Those are HD dimensions, and we can get into more of that at another time. 41, I don't know if that's correct, because I think that was the other ones, and I believe we lengthened this. So I'm going to say 48 seconds. And sometimes you have to do that because it won't work when last frame is. Ideally, you would just say when last frame is reached, but I was running into problems, so then you have to time it and say after 48 seconds, because that was the actual length of it. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to say export, and it's going to take a while. So I'm going to look at it and see if I can live with it, and we'll be back to take a look at it in a minute. Alright, so I looked at the movie, and yeah, there's problems. It's too clogged up. So we're going to have to do some things. First of all, I don't think we need the zebra's legs moving. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. I'm going to say remove tween, and I'm going to just go through and get rid of these keyframes. Shift F6, Shift F6, remove tween, remove tween, Shift F6. So I'm going to go through and get rid of all these keyframes, because we're going to start from scratch. There's too much happening. There's too much information. You know, there's so much information. Even though I did try to, you know, simplify everything, it's just too much. It's too much for the Flash to handle, and it's just going to look terrible and jerky and weird. So, and this is more of a problem with exporting to QuickTime than it is with Flash on its own. So I just wish that YouTube would just let you upload a Flash movie, because they're going to convert it back to a Flash movie anyway. So you're converting it into this other thing, and then, you know, to me it makes no sense. I don't know why that's not one of the, or a shockwave file is what I'm thinking of. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this. We don't need the legs to move. That's an unnecessary thing. You can't even see it underneath the thing. That's going to cut down on some I'm going to do what I can to kind of cut through it all. Okay, so I'm working on my zebra. I've got him, I think, in a good spot to start with. And I'm going to add a keyframe, F6, move him up, and rotate him a little bit. Add a tween. Create motion tween. And I'm going to play it before I get too deep into it. Play it
through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo.
Yeah, I think that's okay with him coming in later like that. Stop. Okay, so I'm going to add another keyframe. He's going to stand there for a minute. Maybe we'll just do his zips kind of fast, and he can stand in one spot for a minute. That way he's not undo. That way he's not standing in one spot, moving his legs. You know, that didn't look right at all. All right, get him down here for our next tween. We're going to put create motion tween there. And I'm going to do it here. How much do we have to go? I think we're pretty much on track here. Tilt up. F6. Move him up. Because he's zipping, maybe he doesn't need to move his legs. And then maybe I'll just turn him. And he can just stay here. He doesn't have to move anymore. Yeah. I think I like that. I'm going to hit save and let's take a look at it.
Zip through the zigzag zinnias at the zoo. Z.
I think that's okay. Alright, I think it's maybe going to be better. Hopefully it's going to be better. I think these zinnias are the problem. That's what's making it lag. Well, plus everything. Look at the giraffes. There's all these little details. The zebra has all these little details. I mean, I tried to really do simplify, but it's not turning out as like I'd hoped. So I'm going to say publish. No, actually export. Export movie. Letter Z, and it's probably going to ask me, do you want to write over it? Yes, I do. Do you want to replace it? Letter Z movie already exists. Do you want to replace it? Yes, I do. Okay, so it's going to be working for a while, and I'm going to say yes and export. And it's going to take a little while, and we're going to check it again and see if we like it and see if it's workable. Back in a minute. Okay, so as you know, just what I thought might happen did happen. We ran into a problem because there's just too much happening here. So I've got a couple ideas. I've got a couple plans here. I think it's the zinnias. I think there's just too much activity there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to make them all one shape. So I'm going to select this. I'm just going to select that layer with these, and it'll automatically select everything on it, all the front zinnias. I am going to say copy. I'm going to come over here and say new symbol. I'm going to say zinnias front and say OK. Select my keyframe within the symbol. Control Shift V. Paste in place. Where are they? Oh, there they are. They're just down low. I'm going to group them all together. I'm going to move them back up to the center where they belong, near the center of the thing. See, that's what I don't like when Flash. Okay, so that could help too. I think I'm going to have to make them into just an image. I think Flash still sees it as all this drawing, even though I've grouped it. So I'm going to export image, and I'm going to call it zinnia front. I'm going to export it and import it back in. So when it comes back in, it should be just all one image, and then it shouldn't be as hard for Flash to calculate. I'm going to say save. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to take it into Photoshop. I was thinking that I should do that, and I'm going to, because what happens is I know that it's going to be this old, that whole thing. Alright, so I'm going to take it into Photoshop because it's going to be this giant image, I'm pretty sure, yeah, and all that white and everything, and we don't need any of that. And also I'm going to try turning it into a bitmap because sometimes with, I think it's bitmaps, I believe, you can get your background blank. So what I did is I went into Photoshop, I got my magic wand tool, selected the white, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-I, which is select inverse. So now these are selected. I'm going to say, oops, I'm going to say cut. I'm going to say new. And I don't want a white background, I want a clear background, transparent. Say OK. And I'm going to say paste. Alright, so now I have this. This is just the zinnias. The white background is gone. I'm going to try to, let's look at the size of this thing before we get it out of here. Image size. Its resolution's 120, that's not too bad. Okay, that's doable. The length of it, though, it's 26 inches in length. It's really, really huge. I'm wondering if we should cut down on the length of it a little. I think what I'm going to do for sure is take it down to 72 dpi. That's pretty standard for a JPEG. That'd be in your resolution here. And I think I am going to make it a little. It's 1919. Let's try 1500 pixels. Let's try that. Well, I'm going to go even less. I'm going to go 1000 pixels on the width, which brings it down to 13 inches. So hopefully that won't distort it too much when we take it back up. Because here's when we get into raster images as opposed to vector. So that's when sometimes if you overstretch them, you're going to end up with the pixely looking look. So I'm going to save this as a JPEG too. What were these called again? Zinnia front one, not Photoshop, I want it as a JPEG. But I'm also going to save it as a bitmap because I believe, or let me look at my options. There's one of the things that you can save as, one of the options, let me get the name of this, Zinnia front, and I'm just going to name it 2, Zinnia front 2. I believe it's, right, or GIF. Maybe it's a GIF, I think. And if you save it as a GIF, then I think you can bring in your transparent background and it won't come as a color. Almost positive. So I'm going to try both while I'm in Photoshop, get all my work done in Photoshop all at one time, then come back to Flash. Okay. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to import what I just did there. Those 2 images that I just created in Photoshop from the original export. Oops, I'm going to say File Import. A lot of programs it's Control I, but in this one for some reason it's that doesn't work. I'm going to delete those. Delete. I'm going to drag this on stage and see if the white comes along. It doesn't. Great. So that worked. That GIF thing worked. I'm hoping that by it being just a big symbol that's not gonna, it'll make it go faster in Flash. So I'm gonna take a break while I do the exact same thing on the back one and come back and build it and we'll see if that solved our problem. Okay, we back it a little bit. Okay, and I'm back and I've got a lot done. I've just been zipping right through this project. So that definitely worked, and that's something that I was thinking about, and I had a problem on one of my other animations, that alphabet one, because I drew real detailed grass. So even though I had that in mind when I was drawing to try to make it loose, that was definitely a factor. It's running much smoother now. Also what I did, the zebra was like walking and not zipping. So here's the zebra's timeline here, and what I did with him, it was like it was stretched out like this, and it was just taking way too long. So what I did is I just put them in, I shortened all those, and I feel like it looks more like a zip than it did before, because he's moving real quickly. Alright, there are also what I thought might have been dragging, I checked my keyframes were off on my text. So I've already adjusted them. I left the last one at the zoo, and you can test that right in Flash. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and we're going to try to line up that last one on the zoo, on that audio.
At the zoo.
Oops, I need to back it up a little bit further than that. They were all off, and here I thought it was a running slow problem, but it wasn't. It was just that the keyframes were off, so I must have did something somewhere.
Zip through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo.
At the zoo is right around there, so now I have it way over here. So we're gonna move that a lot. So because I want it when it says zoo, that red letter to light up on the bottom here. So let's try that again.
Zip through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo.
I think that's almost perfect. I just want to listen to the whole thing one more time and really watch those letters. Make sure they're turning on where they're supposed to be in sync.
The zany zealous zebra zips through the zigzagged zinnias at the zoo.
Alright, I like it.
Z.
I like it. Definitely. I think we have finally finished this project. I picked a crazy one to do because it was I'm gonna hit all the way back. I wish go to first frame. I like this. It goes right to the beginning. I'm gonna build this out. I wanna this is a real project, and we ran into real problems along the way. If you happen to watch the whole series, but we have also through some creative thinking we solved them, and I hope this is going to be posted within a day or so. I should be running it right through and publishing it on my site so you can actually see the finished product, and you can come along on the journey and watch the whole series and see how we put it together. I'm going to be going back and doing some shorter ones for you. I'm going to do like maybe a whole little lesson just on color and gradients, and maybe a lesson just on the timeline for some real beginning stuff. But you did get to go through a project from beginning to end with me, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.